We know about the legend of Voltron. That's why we're here.
Well, it seems like every few years, RetroBlasting has to tackle yet another Classic Voltron review. It's become kind of a tradition around here since Voltron was one of our earliest videos back in 2012. And what I find most interesting about this particular Voltron from Playmates that's come out, this Voltron is tied to the Legendary Defender line, but it's called Voltron 84, the classic Lions. It seems like in Voltron's history in the United States, every time they try and come up with a new Voltron, the toy maker in question always leans on the original Voltron at some point. With the Trendmasters line, even though Voltron himself didn't change all that much, they re-released the Matchbox edition along with their new plastic version. And then with Voltron Force, Mattel was supposed to release Voltron Force-styled Lions, but they never did. And instead, they opted to do the Matty Collector Classic Voltron with the figures, which is infamous around here.
Whoever designed this at Mattel should fire themselves.
And now with Voltron Legendary Defender, they did the new Voltron for about a year and a half, I guess, on toy aisles. Voltron never really has a big presence on toy aisles like Star Wars or Ninja Turtles or Transformers, but it always had product on the shelves every time I would go in. And now they've decided, well, we're going to go back and do the classic one, which, of course, every toy maker who gets the latest incarnation of Voltron seems to do. And I think what it means is you really just shouldn't mess with the original robot, because the Japanese animators at Toy, they nailed it the first time. If you're going to do a new Voltron storyline, great, but you got to keep the robot the same. I mean, that latest Legendary Defender thing, you know, he's got like the corset waist with the huge Popeye forearms, and he frankly looks ridiculous. I know that the show is doing well, and that's all due to story, but the robot, horrible. I mean, just horrible. So I can understand why Playmates would want to put out the classic one, because that's the one everybody likes the best. You know, logic problems aside, styling problems aside. And in this case, we now have to start asking ourselves, where does this next release rank in the history of Voltron toy releases? Because we've had Lions going all the way back to Popey, and then the Matchbox version of the Popey, and then the Panache Place, and then the Trendmasters, and then the Trendmasters Plastic, and then you have the Toynami.
Because he's awesome, and because he's metal.
Then you have the Bandai Soul of Chigoken, you've got the Matty Collector.
This is a disaster.
And now you've got the Playmates version. They come in nice window packaging, just like the Matty Collector ones did. So it's going to be tempting to keep them in the package as well. For the purposes of our review, we had to take them out of the boxes, and they're very securely put in there. It's going to take you some time. The nice thing about the Playmates release is that they come with the weapons, and that's something that's often easily omitted or overlooked by other versions. The original Toynami release did not have the weapons. They only had the sword and the space cutter. They did not have the lion weapons. The Matty Collector one had the mouth blades, and that was it, along with the sword and the space cutter. Playmates seems to have threaded the needle a little bit with this, because the Soul of Chigoken doesn't have firing missiles, for example. This one does. This one comes with the missile launchers with the firing missiles, which is nice. But, oddly, it leaves Black Lion out. Black Lion doesn't come with anything. He doesn't come with a lion blade. He doesn't come with any sort of cannons. He doesn't come with anything. It's just Black Lion. And that's probably because of the electronic gizmos that are in him. The rest of the lions come with their assorted weapons, which is a nice recall to the original Popey. And also, by some extension, you know, the Panache Place. Although the Panache Place did not have spring-loaded missiles. It just had some of the stick-on launchers and things like that. The quality control on these is to be expected. These are all plastic. The legs are hollow in terms of their thickness. You know, they're thick from the front, but then when you turn them to the side, they have these cutouts that, you know, indicate, you know, they're trying to save plastic here, make it more lightweight. The ratcheting joints on the legs are hit and miss. You know, my Blue Lion has one leg that's kind of more loosey-goosey than the other one right out of the box. That's been a typical issue with the Voltron Lion design, period. I mean, in any version throughout the last 35 years, that's one of the weak points of the design, is trying to mass produce those ratcheting joints to a specific quality control for every set they make. The Lion heads and everything like that, they have nice mobility, but again, it's a plastic Playmates toy for, you know, every toy store in America and across the world. So they're not going to be as impressive, and they aren't as impressive as previous versions, specifically the Soul of Chogokin and, for some tastes, the Toynami. Where Playmates really nailed it with their version, though, is in the size. So the size of the Lions is the perfect hybrid, you know, compromise for kids being able to play with these. You know, the Matchbox Popey that we played with as kids, the die-cast versions, they were kind of small once you got down to red and green. And then the Panache Place, they were big and you could get your hands on them, but they weren't accurate. They were kind of doofy looking. So Playmates really has knocked it out of the park in terms of providing a larger sized plastic lion for us to manipulate. And I think kids are really going to like these. I don't know how well they're going to hold up to vigorous play, which is a problem for all the Voltron versions we've ever had, minus maybe the Panache Place, because it just, you know, it threw accuracy to the wind for durability. But overall, I am curious to see how these hold up to child play. I'm not sure how that's going to work. Also, with every Classic Lion set that's ever come out, you have to give it 2 grades. One is how good are the Lions? The other is how good is the combined robot? And in a lot of cases, you know, the toy leans in one direction versus the other. You know, either the robot's really great and the Lions are really or the Lions are really awesome and the robot is really Playmates, it seems, leans toward the Lions. And the reason I say that is because when you put the robot together, there are some cool gimmicks in getting it together, but then once it's, you know, combined, that's where the shortcomings start to occur. If you've put together a lot of Voltron sets before, then a lot of this is going to be second nature to you. There aren't many new and innovative ways to make these Lions go together with each version of the toy. You know, the first thing you have to do is make sure that the tails are out of the way because you don't want to snap those off. I'm going to pop off these weapons, and they're just sort of snap fit onto the toy. As you saw, that missile just went flying off. That's one of the things you have to realize with these spring-loaded designs is they work really well. And one of the nice things about them, if I can use this one as an example, is that they have innovated by making all 3 missiles on one firing rocket. I guess it's a cost savings to make sure you only need 1 spring-loaded launcher per mechanism. But it's also a nice way to make sure that you have less of a chance of losing the missiles. So we're going to pop these off. The Lion blades that come with the Lions, they have little slots so that they fit up into their mouths nicely. But the mouth doesn't close real well around them at the bottom, the lower jaw, which is kind of a letdown. It makes them look a little funky. And then the mouths are, as usual, spring-loaded, like they were back in the 80s, and for a lot of these Lions over the years. And that's another thing you'll find when you're working with these Playmates Lions is that you don't want to put the missiles into the launchers before you get the missile launchers set on the shoulders, because when they pop in, your finger will invariably hit the launch button and it's gone. We do get all of the accurate weapons for the limb lions. We get no weapons for the black lion. I don't know what they were thinking with that. They didn't give black lion a mouth blade. They didn't give him any of his shoulder cannons. They didn't give him anything. He doesn't even come with the sword and the shield, or the sword and the cutter. That comes with red and green lion. I guess it's because of this electronic gimmick. So on the back of red lion is this switch. And when you flip the switch over, he's now activated, he's on. And then at that point, there's a button on the side, and it lights up his chest emblem, and he says like 60 phrases from the show.
The galaxy is about to be secure. Form Voltron! Form Voltron! They'll soon be defeated by Voltron, Defender of the Universe!
So it rattles through those. The voice work is really good. I'm not sure if they sampled the original actors and got the audio tapes or not, but it sounds pretty good. So the first thing that I noticed about Black Lion when I pulled him out of the case was that he finally has white detailing on the wings when he's a lion. And then when it flips up, it's been duplicated on the other side so that he looks correct as the robot, also the final robot. That's a really nice touch. All right, so the way we do this is, as with all Voltron toys, you bring the legs down, and you'll notice that with this one, they tried to make it animation accurate, so his rear haunches right here at the hips are gray instead of black, so that when he's the full robot, he looks correct. So they erred on the side of the robot. So we're gonna straighten out these legs. And then this system is far more robust for the front legs than traditionally we've seen. There's some nice beefy doors that open up right here, and then the legs, sorry about that, the button is right there, and I hit it sometimes. The legs go tucking in. You want to flatten the foot out, and then close that door. We'll do that for both sides. Okay, so we have that, and that is probably one of the best features of the Playmates version, is that these doors are really solid. Like, they're not fragile. They don't feel like they're going to break off. It's not difficult to close them and get that arm in a perfect position like with the Popey or the Toynami. I mean, it really works well. Now, where we start to get some differences from past versions is that these legs don't want to rotate past a certain point. That's as far as they go in the counterclockwise direction. And then if you rotate them this way, they don't go clockwise further than lining up with the chest. So that's all the movement you're going to get out of those. I don't know why they made that decision, but cool. Okay. All right.
Activate laser blades!
You see how that button keeps getting in the way? And the reason that I have it turned on is for a specific reason for this demo. When you build Voltron, there are actual metal contacts within these points that alert the little computer inside that Voltron is forming, so you get special sounds. So you want to keep them on while you're doing this. Unfortunately, you're going to keep hitting the button the whole time while you're working with it, which is annoying, I won't lie. Okay, so let's bring his fins up. Another nice touch about the Playmates version is that they made it so that the fins lock together when they're in lion mode. There's a little peg that locks them together, which helps with, sorry about that, which helps with stability. And then the tail goes up. The tail is cool this time because it's ratcheted, which is a new one. And it really helps keep that tail from eventually, falling back down. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us have Voltrons where when they're fully formed on display, there's that tail hanging down in the back because they just made it a friction joint and not a ratchet. So that's a nice touch. Well done, Playmates. Another nice thing about the Playmates version is that it finally has like mid-thigh knees. So it's got two options for you I think that's a lot of oversight with Playmates.
We will defend this planet.
Sorry. Again, annoying. I know. Sorry. And it also has thigh swivel, which is really nice. That's something that the Matty Collector had, but the weight distribution on that thing was horrible. All right, so we're going to leave the head till last. All right, let's get these legs put together. There goes a missile. All right, Yellow Lion is pretty much the same as he's always been. Tail goes in, head ratchets up. You got a little bit of neck swivel here, which is good, so that you can really work that foot part, really make it a nice leaning ankle or something like that. Legs go up. And in this respect, it really does model itself after the Popey and the Soul of Chogokin. I mean, you can't really get better than that design. So Playmates didn't try to reinvent the wheel on that one, which was really smart. They looked at it and they said, yeah, that's the way it works. So you have a nice sturdy leg there. We'll do the same with blue. And see how you can kind of ratchet these feet into position depending on how you want the standing pose of Voltron to be. All right. I'm going to give it a little bit. Yeah, I'll make it like that. Okay. That feels sturdy. All right, so here's where the party trick comes in. Watch what happens. Watch what happens when I assemble the blue leg to the black lion.
Blue Lion, coming in. Yellow Lion, leaping into action.
So they are actually providing sounds and sensors or contacts in here so that those sounds play when Voltron begins to form, which is a really awesome touch. I will not, underplay that. That is extremely cool. And the reason I figured it out was because when I first formed the robot, trying to get to know it a little bit. So Green Lion is just like he, has always been. Legs tuck in, legs tuck in. Now they use the Toynami design for this, where you have this extension. It's not the tail that attaches it to the lion. It's this kind of nubbin thing here. Now the tail is where the Playmates one, frankly, really sucks, because it's this rubbery tail. It doesn't stick out very well. It likes to fall into the body, but it doesn't fall in properly and stay where it's supposed to go. You're supposed to be able to kind of snap it into the body, but it's just always loose. It's never, that's a little tighter for the extended position, but most of the time you can't find a way to get it locked in there. So anytime you're positioning Voltron, this thing is rattling around on his shoulder, which is pretty weak. Now, my Red Lion had a better tail. It's still loosey-goosey as the lion, but if you fiddle with it enough, it will lock into place for the robot, like that. It still sticks out, a la Toynami. All right. So the feet are in place, and now we have...
Form, arms, and body.
If you hit the button on the side during the various stages of the construction, it plays special sounds because it knows what stage of the combination you're in, which is pretty cool. So let's test it and see. I'm going to take the arm off.
Come on, team. Let's
Ah, see? It played a special sound when I clicked the button to release the arm. Now, if I release the leg, we release one of these legs and see what happens.
United we stand.
So she says, "United we stand," as she detaches from Voltron. So the sounds aren't perfect. So now if I hit the button,
Pidge, is that you? Where are you?
he's wondering where Pidge is.
Form, arms, and body. Princess, we're a team, and we really need you.
He doesn't know where the princess is. The Black Lion does not know where the princess is because the princess is not attached.
Form, arms, and body.
That was me hitting the button.
United we stand. You can count on Voltron.
So there's a little bit of variation sometimes when the robots are, or when the lions are attached.
Red Lion, all systems go. Ready to form Voltron. Activate interlocks. Dynatherms connected. Infracells up. Mega thrusters are go. Form feet and legs. Form arms and body. And I'll form the head. Go Voltron. Form blazing sword.
So it rattles through the entire sequence after you've put all 4 limbs on, which is a little anticlimactic, but I can understand how they can't get around that problem. Overall, though, that's the coolest gimmick about the Playmates, is the way that it does that. It was very well thought out on their part. Reminds me a little bit of the Imaginext interactivity. And the other nice thing about it is it seems like this... That stupid button. It seems like the robot is really sturdy. I mean, he's sturdily built, I'll say that much. But now we're going to get into shortcomings. Okay, so now we have the fully formed Playmates Classic Voltron 84. It looks good at a glance. It's not the most elegant looking of them, but it's certainly not, you know, the panache place. I think my vote for best ever would still be either the original Popey or the Bandai Soul of Chogokin. It just seems like the legacy company from Japan just knows how to make this robot look its best. As you can see, what I was talking about with the tails, this tail just kind of sticks up because there's no way to lock it in place. And even with that, you always have this little nubbin sticking out here, which isn't the most visually appealing thing. You have the arms, which have nice elbow movement and, you know, wrist movement, which is good. And I believe they've even got, yep, they've got a bicep swivel as well, which is, you know, that's good. You've also got the leg movement, which is nice because you've got one little bit of knee here, and then, like I said, you've got that extra sort of like above the knee bend as well.
Ready to form Voltron. Activate interlocks. Dynatherm.
You see why that's annoying? That gets annoying. So you've got nice knee movement, and you've got nice knee positioning, so you can, you know, spread his feet a little bit if you wanted to. He doesn't have a waist swivel, and that's because of all the electronics. The speaker grill is right above his belt buckle. That might be an aesthetic turnoff to some of you, but just making you aware. He is sturdy on his feet, though. I will give him that. Like, he doesn't fall over. He's good in that department. That's a big deal. But here's where the Playmates version gets a little embarrassing. I've checked it 20 times, and I've tried to see if I'm missing something. I don't think I am. There is no way to turn his arms at the shoulder without moving the entire shoulder assembly, a la Panache Place. They did not build in a ratcheting system right there. So when you want to move his arms, you have to misalign his chest. I mean, that's a black mark against this toy. So if you're a diehard Voltron collector, I don't think this is the Voltron for you. I think you need to go Soul of Chogokin. I mean, seriously, you need to go Bandai, because I was pretty shocked by this myself. I was like, wow, like they just went full panache on this, which it's kind of a shame given how the quality of the overall piece is pretty good for a mass-produced retail Voltron. I mean, it stands about 16 inches tall, which is comparable to the Panache Place, actually. But it's just got that drawback. And then the other odd thing about this one that I just want to bring up, you know, the shield is actually nice. The shield is nicer than the Matty Collector, because the Matty Collector was that pliable, like rubbery material, which was just weak. This one's actually, you know, solid plastic, which is nice. It has the handle with the notch for the top of Green Lion's mouth. So it goes in. You know, these spring-loaded mouths can kind of impede your progress on putting these together, but eventually. All right, so we have the shield. The sword, it feels a little small. I think it looks a little small. I think it is too small, actually. Now, it might just be that the other swords for the other lions were too big, but I don't think so. I think this sword is actually too small. I mean, it just looks a little small. I mean, I know that the Toynami one was a little more exaggerated and stylized in the way they did it. They wanted to really, you know, amp up the mythos of Voltron, so they kind of exaggerated everything about the lions and the, you know, the sword and everything like that. So I'm not trying to go on that one, but I do feel the sword needs to be a little, you know, and this one just doesn't have it. It just doesn't have it. So let me show you this lion set as the robot compared to some of the vintage ones, just to give you an idea. All right, so now you can see the Playmates edition in comparison with a number of other major Voltron releases from the last 35 years. Now, you will notice that I do not have the Trendmasters 23-inch Voltron here. I don't have that in the archive. And you'll also notice I don't have the infamous Matty Collector one here. That was actually a tactical move, because I did not want that huge 24-inch piece of crap standing behind all of these other Voltrons and then it decide to pitch forward like it often does and topple over onto all these, knock them off the table, break them. I wasn't about to lose nice Voltrons to a crappy one. And you should really take what I just said to heart. The Playmates edition is a nice Voltron. Does it have some problems? Yes. I think aside from the Bandai and the original Popey, they've all got problems. But the Playmates one really ranks among one of the best ones that's been manufactured, especially by a major toy company. So just starting from the left, we have the Playmates edition, which, as you can see, towers over all of the others in this lineup. Only the Trendmasters and the Matty Collector would be taller. But they get to the point where they can be pretty unwieldy. The Matty Collector, you know my thoughts on that.
This is a disaster.
And the Trendmasters one is notoriously fragile. That's more of a display piece than anything else at this point. To the Playmates immediate left, you have the Toynami diecast edition. This is not the stylized EX. This is the standard Lion Force edition in diecast, not in plastic. And Toynami always did a really good job with theirs. And then to its immediate left, in the center of the table, we have the Bandai Soul of Chogokin. And you can see how it just pops. It really stands out. It can do everything we wanted our diecast Go Lion to do when we were kids. And then to its immediate left, you have its ancestor, the Popey Go Lion, the Matchbox diecast edition, the GB36. And that one right there is one that if you don't have that in your 80s toy collection, it's kind of a hole. I mean, that's kind of a glaring hole. That's like not having He-Man and Skeletor. You kind of have to have that one. And then to its immediate left is the infamous Panache Place version, which I grew up with, and I have a soft spot for it, but I'm an objective person, and it is really goofy looking. You can see those rotated shoulders, and it doesn't have any elbow joints, and the lions are all weird, and it looks like he's wearing a huge lion hat because his face is too small inside the lion. I mean, he's pretty goofy looking. And then at his feet, on his lower left, is the Popey GB35, which you might know better as the miniature Matchbox diecast edition. This is the Japanese version with the firing hands and feet. And I just put that there just to give you kind of a historical round out of some of the combined Voltrons that have been made since its inception. Now, the Playmates one, it is the perfect one for you if you also have kids and you want to share the Voltron experience and not worry about something super expensive getting broken. Now, to get all of these lions, it's going to cost you over $100. You know, the black lion is $29.99, and then the other lions are $17.99 each. So it's not the cheapest venture, which is unfortunate, but you're getting a larger Voltron set too. You're getting the tallest one out of all of these. You do get some disadvantages with this one. For one, you get the rotating shoulders, which are very Panache-like, which is very frustrating. So as you can see, I've got him displayed with the chest in alignment, because if you have him displayed any other way, it just looks really weird with those shoulders rotated. The other problem with him are the tails on the red and green. They tend to stick out of his shoulders, which is a real letdown. That is unfortunate. And then, you've got the sound issue. The sounds are always kind of popping on and off when you don't want them to. And I know I'm listing out some negatives, but these are really minor quibbles when you're talking about a playable Voltron. You can see, first of all, he looks great standing there. His sword is a little short. I mean, look at it compared to the others. His sword it's kind of short. I mean, it's not, it just doesn't, but his pose is great. He's solid standing here as I knock the table. He's not moving. So the engineers at Playmates did a good job in that respect. If you don't have a Voltron already and you want one, and you have over $100 to spare in your income, maybe if you have even a little more, I would still recommend going after the Soul of Chogokin Bandai version. Now, it is sold out, so it is more expensive now. So that might be several $100s. But it is the best one of the lot. If you're a person that loves nostalgia and loves vintage, then you need to get the Matchbox Popey. That's the one you want. And then you'll have to track down a sword and shield for that, because in the United States, the sword and shield didn't come standard with it. But if you're just looking for something to have that's cool looking and, at a glance, and you might be able to share it with kids and it's not going to break, terribly easily and all that kind of stuff, then get the Playmates. It's not a disaster. It's not like the Matty Collector debacle from a few years ago. It's a worthy addition to a Voltron display. So I guess I'm going to end here because I feel like I'm starting to ramble, but take it all in. Take in all these Voltrons. They are the best of the bunch, easily. So thanks for watching this, and we will see you on the next RetroBlasting feature video, which will be a new episode of Star Wars Follies.